Well, welcome on in, everyone. It's another edition of the North from Philly podcast. It's me, Adam from Wales, and I'm with my good partner in crime, Justin in Tennessee. And we've got a good pod coming this week now on this episode. We've got a lot to talk about. Big Sunday night football game against the Rams. So we're going to touch on a lot of different stuff. We've got Justin's college corner later on. And so we're going to get going. Justin, how's it going, fella?
What's happening, feller? How you doing this fine Saturday morning?
Yeah, it's a fine. Well, it's not so fine here in Wales. It's raining and
Yeah,
pouring. It's like monsoon rain out there. It just hasn't
we
stopped, and yeah.
we've got a little bit of rain and ugliness, but I think it's going to move out. My son Owen and my nephew Brady, they just left. They're taking off to the Tennessee game today. It starts at 1. They're
Ah,
going to go around to a few tailgates and holler at some people. So he got some really good seats, pretty cheap last night, and he's
nice.
going down, hang out with his cousin today, and they're going to see Vols hopefully kick hell out of UTEP.
Yeah, that's a winnable game, I think, for the Vols.
Yeah, hopefully.
Should be
If it
good.
ain't, we're
Yeah,
screwed, blued and tattooed.
yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. We've got Sunday night football now this week, the Rams,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we found out yesterday that, Jalen's going to be out without a major weapon, but, he's obviously still got a lot around him, which is going to be good. But Devontae is a big loss. He's someone that Jalen is able to go to in critical moments in games where they need a first down. He's from the moment, Devontae was drafted, him and, I know only him and Jalen only played a little bit together in Alabama towards the end, but he seemed to trust Devontae from the get-go as soon as Devontae was drafted, and he's always come up clutch in big moments, made some great catches these last few seasons. So how do you think the Eagles now are going to have to go about this strategy-wise? Because obviously you've got Saquon, the offensive line, AJ, Dallas, you know, um, Deshaun, Watson, Dotson, so
Jahan
how
Dotson, yeah.
Jahan Dotson. So, what do you think Jalen's going to have to do to, keep this game going for us?
Well, I mean, obviously with Devontae out, they're going to key on AJ quite a bit, because when AJ and Devontae are both in the game, you can't double one because that's going to leave the other in single coverage. So it's going to hurt, but also something that they touched on yesterday on the afternoon show that I agree with wholeheartedly. While Dallas was out, Jalen really turned to Grant Calcaterra quite a bit, and Grant was showing us what he could be as a receiving tight end. Now
Hmm.
he leaves a little bit to be desired as a blocking tight end, but Grant made some really good catches, and Jalen trusted him. I think we could see more 12 personnel in this, but I also think hopefully, maybe finally, we can get a Jahan Dotson game. Like you said, show a little trust in Jahan. I don't know if they'll play him in the slot, if they'll move him outside in Devontae's absence. I don't know how all the logistics will work with that. The who's the big kid, number 89? His name always escapes me. He's the
Johnny
rookie,
Wilson.
Johnny Wilson. I'm not sure how much play
Yeah,
he'll get tomorrow with Devontae out, but I think offensively, I think we'll be fine. We've just got to get keep the momentum going of getting started early. Get a score of any kind on our first possession, whether it's a field goal, touchdown, whatever. Just get points on your first possession. We're starting slow, but
yeah,
hopefully the more the season goes, and you and I have talked about it, and I've talked about it with a lot of other people, and the more Jalen gets comfortable in the offense, hopefully things are clicking more. So offensively, I mean, it's going to be tough. It really is. The Rams have got a really good young defensive line, but we have the best offensive line in football. So
yeah,
that's that's going to be some give and take there, I think.
yeah. This is what they need to do. They need. I keep harping on about it all the time, but it's balance, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yes,
The run game needs to get it going so they can get the pass, then get some play action going. And like you say, Grant Calcaterra, he has been someone that Jalen also trusts as well.
yes,
They played together a little bit
yes,
in college as well, didn't they? So that's why that trust was there. So I know Dallas is back, but like we said, Calcaterra is a good receiving tight end, and you know they've got they're going to have to this week. I think without Devontae, Jalen's just going to have to take what the defense is going to give him.
Yes.
You know,
Don't go for the deep shots all the time. I know Jalen likes the deep shots and all that, but if there's a 5-yard out or a little curl or slant or drag there, take it.
yeah,
Take what they're giving you.
yeah. And we know now that obviously that this ankle issue was real, and
Yeah.
you know, it was on the injury report this week. Obviously, it doesn't look like it's something that's true because he's still been running really well regardless. So, you know, but they've got, you know, it's we're at that point in the season now where guys are starting to, you know, feel a pinch on their bodies. They're getting little nick injuries here and there. You know, it's happened to Devontae this week now. He obviously, the last couple of weeks, he's played through his hamstring the best he
Yeah.
can. But obviously, they've had to, you know, be careful this week and keep him out. He most likely probably could have played. You know, he's a tough kid, as skinny as he is, and you know, the weight, he doesn't weigh a lot. You know, is he 160 pounds, something like that?
Yeah.
You know, so, but the kid is, you know, he is strong. Like, he's a tough guy. And he would have played through it if he had been allowed. But obviously, I think they've done the right thing this week, keeping him out. You know, they've got other weapons to lean on, and they've just got to, you know, use the right strategy. You know, use the offensive line. They're there. You know what I mean? They've got Saquon. They've got, you know, all these other weapons around them. They've got to use their heads now going forward because we've got a tough stretch of games now. We've got Ravens away next week. Then it's, is it the Steelers after that, or is it back against Washington?
I think it's
Not
Steelers and then Washington. I
then
can't
Washington.
remember
You know, the
100%.
Steelers game's going to be a home, but that's going to be tough. I mean, I watched that Thursday night football game the other day, and that was
Yeah.
a crazy game with the Browns and the Steelers. They
Yeah.
duked it out, and you know, I mean, the Browns were trying their best to find a way to lose that game, and you know, they managed to get it out. And the snow played a big factor, but you know, I mean, they both, you know, it came down to the wire, didn't it? So the Steelers are going to be a tough team. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they're not going to be afraid coming into Philly. You know, they played there before. Russell Wilson, he knows how to play in these big games, and he's a lot better this year. My God, you know, whatever they're doing in Pittsburgh, they've got, you know, Russell Wilson seems to be back to what he was before. You know, he went to the Broncos, so that's going to be a tough game. And yeah, this Rams game now this week is, you know, Matthew Stafford. He's playing a lot better than he was last season, but obviously their record is 5-5, and you know they're still beatable, the Rams, but yeah, they seem to come back into their own now. So, no Devontae Smith. What do you think about, you know, Bryce Huff? You know, I know he hasn't made big plays, but he seemed to be getting there, and now he's, you know.
It seemed like he was starting to make improvements, make some strides, and then he had the hand wrist injury.
Yeah.
They were getting him in just mainly on pass rush downs, but like I said, he was making some strides. It looked like he had improved on some things. He was getting pressure. He wasn't getting sacks, but he was getting there. I seen one play. Oh shoot, who was it before Washington that we played?
I was.
Yeah, he had a good bull rush on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
He didn't try to dip, like he just went straight at him and just
Straight. Yeah.
I guess it kind of shocked the guy that he came right at him like that. He had a good rush on that play, but hopefully he can get healthy enough to be ready for a playoff run. I think that's what they're doing this for. Go ahead and get the wrist taken care of. Have him back for the first playoff game, whatever that may be. Hopefully it's after a bye week and everybody gets a week of rest and we've got home field throughout. But yeah, are we going to miss him a great deal? I don't think so. But like I said, it did seem like he was making some improvements. Like he was starting to come on a little bit there. It sucks that he did get the injury, but it's also a positive that they're saying he will be back for the playoffs as well. So, I mean, you can't never have enough pass rushers, especially come playoff time. And if you're the only knock on him is he's not very good at all against the run, and he's just going to be in on passing downs.
I tell you something, I've just been watching a bit of College Game Day, and they were talking about that Caleb Downs,
Yes.
pass rusher. He's with Alabama, now he's with Ohio State. My God, he looks really good.
He's
So,
he
I
is.
mean, they
He's
can
real.
find a way to get him in the draft next season if he goes in the draft. Oof, that's
I
someone I'd like on my team.
Yeah, when we start to talk about the upcoming draft later on in the show, man, I've got a couple of things that ways I think they'll go.
Yeah.
But we'll hit that later on.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, our boy, in my background, Nolan Smith, he's been stepping up
Yeah,
big this season. He's getting these sacks. Jay Lutz Hunt now, I think it's time to, well, they'll have to now get him more involved because, obviously BG is still going to be getting a lot of snaps. But they can't, they've got to be careful with BG. He's older. I know he's
yeah,
playing well, but they're going to have to do a lot more rotation by the looks of it. Rotate Nolan, get Jay Lutz Hunt involved, get BG involved. They have to rotate them out, on both sides because, you can't have Sweat playing every down either. You know what I
no,
mean? They're going to have to be, like we said, we're halfway through the season now. It's getting to crunch time. We've got pivotal games coming up. They've got to be careful on both sides of the ball, with these players. So, yeah.
the
Will we miss Brycer? I don't know.
I, like I said, I think it's a body to take snaps right now away from like to get BG and Sweat some rest and stuff like that. But talking about defensive line, one of the more underrated guys who was kind of a bubble guy for the roster coming into the season, excuse me, is Moro Ojimo out of Texas. He was a
Oh,
sixth or
yeah.
seventh round pick for us. And when he was drafted, last year was his rookie year. So the year he was drafted, like going through all the draft stuff that I really thoroughly enjoy going through, this kid was projected third, fourth round. Everything I seen, he was projected third, fourth round. And I saw a
Ah,
stat last night. He and Milton Williams, like there's I think it was like for backup defensive tackles is what the stat was, and minimum of so many snaps played. But as far as the backup defensive tackles or something like that, as far as quarterback pressures, they are number 2 and 5 out of the top 10. Something to that effect. Moro Ojimo has been absolutely outstanding, and the value we've got out of him for a
mm,
seventh round pick. Like when he was, I was literally, a lot of folks may not believe this. I watch every round of the draft. I love it. I absolutely love it. When he was falling, I was like, my God, why don't we take him here? Why don't we got him in the seventh round or sixth round, whatever it was. That was huge. I mean, like I said, everything I looked at, everybody had him as anywhere between a third and a fourth round grade. And why he fell to the sixth, seventh round, I have no idea, but I'm glad he did. And I'm thankful that we got it.
yeah.
Our defensive line is really deep. Like I said, your starters at tackle are Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Then you have Milton Williams. You've got Moro Ojimo. You've got the kid's name slips my mind every time. Number
But,
59,
Booker, Thomas Booker.
Booker. Yes, Booker.
Yeah,
He's
he's played well
played
this year.
really well. Yes, and like you said, Nolan's starting to come on now, and I've attributed that the whole time to last year. He was coming off a shoulder injury in the preseason.
Mm,
He went
yeah,
through 2 defensive coordinators in his rookie year. And now he has a legit, true defensive coordinator who's working with him, who pushed him, who worked his ass off. Because we saw in the preseason, Nolan Smith was playing into the third and fourth quarters of preseason games. I mean,
yeah,
how crazy? Oh, we were thinking, my God, how much is he in the doghouse? I was anyway. How
mm,
deep is he in the doghouse of Vic Fangio? Because you don't see guys who getting a lot of playing time or even making the daggone team playing into the third and fourth quarter of the final preseason game, and
yeah,
it's paid off for him because he's getting pressure now. He's worked his ass off, and I'm happy for the kid. He was a first round pick, and he was the 30th pick of the first round. So
yeah,
you had people last year saying, "Oh, there's another wasted pick by Howie." Well, you had to look at the circumstances. Like I said, he was coming off an injury in the preseason. He went through 2 defensive coordinators. The first one, we don't know if he was ever a legit defensive coordinator or not in Sean Desai. Who knows?
yeah,
Who knows? We'll ever know. Matt Patricia, he was an okay defensive coordinator under the Patriots, but if you're a defensive coordinator under the Patriots, that means you're just kind of the lackey for Belichick, basically, because it's his
Belichick. Yeah,
defense.
we
He's
all
running
know
the
it's
show.
Belichick. Yeah, yeah,
So I'm really happy for Nolan Smith that things have started to turn the corner for him and he's looking better, and I'm happy
Yeah,
for us too.
yeah, that's it. These guys, they need time, don't they? And obviously, like we talked about last week, last year's circumstances were, terrible after the Buffalo game. Everything just collapsed, and
Yeah.
they had to get rid of the side, bring in Patricia, and then everything just, you knew there was something wrong in the locker room, and everything just collapsed. Yeah. So, yeah, we're so happy for Nolan Smith. Yeah. And what's saying that just mentioned preseason, you know the offensive starters, they just seem like they don't play in preseason. They won't play Jalen. Apart from the 2022 year, you saw Jalen, that first quarter, and he looked really good. And then obviously last season they didn't play any of the starters on offense. This season they didn't. And you can always see in that first game coming out the rust and,
Yeah.
the lack of not having live snaps. And, it affects them. And I know they talk about, on the radio. I know like, Elliot likes to say that, these joint training camps are like preseason games. And, I suppose they are to a point, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things held back in those joint training sessions as well because they don't want their guys getting hurt,
Nope.
obviously. So, but I think unless they win the Super Bowl this year, uh, I'm not going to give those guys a pass next season. When the preseason comes around next year, they've got to play the offensive. I'm not saying every snap or every drive, but just
Get him
get them
some
in every
live
one
game
or two.
action.
Yeah, some live snaps just to get them accumulate, get them a bit warmed up. You know what I mean? I know it's always a big risk that you play your starters for a couple of drives, a couple of snaps. It's always a risk, but isn't that like that's their job? That's what they do. They play football. That's their job.
It,
So they're always going to be taking a risk.
it goes back to like what James Seltzer and Elliott argue about all the time. Elliott says, well, they treat
Mm,
the practices with the other teams just like a preseason game, and I watch them and they're really going hard. They're not going as hard there as they would if it were a preseason game, in my opinion.
mm,
And excuse me, when you look at how slow our offense gets off to start a season,
yeah,
about the fifth, sixth game, that's when things start to pick up and we start to play better. Why is it? Because we're not playing a single preseason game, not a single one. So if you want to play them one series in the first preseason game and then give them 3 or 4 series in the second preseason game and then not play them in the final one at all, okay, that's fine. Get them a little bit of live ball game action. If they get hurt, it's gonna suck. If if
yeah,
if if you lose a AJ Brown or Devontae or Jalen in a
mm,
preseason game, a meaningless preseason game, but I mean, if it's gonna help your team start out faster offensively in the regular season, like everybody's pretty much gonna start a little slow first game, but like say second or third game instead of fifth or sixth, that's huge in my opinion because it could mean the
yeah,
difference in getting the number 1 or number 2 seed in the playoffs. Now, granted, you want the number 1 because that's the only one that gets the bye, but a number 2 ain't bad either.
yeah. Because we all know the NFL is not for long.
No.
Every season, you could be the best team in the league or you could be the worst team in the league. It changes
Yeah.
every single year. And I know we've had a bit of consistency these last few years since they brought in AJ, and then they've improved defensive line. We have got Devontae, Dallas stepped up into his role as the start of the tight end. We've had a good running game every season, but it seems to me every year the window is getting smaller and smaller for the Eagles to take advantage of. The window's it's not going to stay open forever. Next season, the Lions could be good again. They might not, but they most likely will be. The San Francisco, they're going to be back next year. They're going through their Super Bowl curse that we went through
Yeah.
last year. But they will be back next year. What are the Rams going to look like next year? What are the Seahawks going to look like? The Vikings, when
What are the Packers?
with the Packers, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like the
They've not
Packers,
looked good
I
this
know,
year.
yeah, but Jordan Love, he'd be better next year, most likely. I think that injury has affected him this season. So, the NFC is going to get a lot tougher. It could be a lot tougher next year. So they've got to find ways to get rid of these slow starts. Like we said last week, the previous 2 games, the slow start in the first half, that can't carry on because this stretch of, maybe okay, you had Dallas, the Giants, Washington. We thought Washington was gonna, Washington was a tough game, but
Hmm.
they managed to get it done. But this stretch, the Rams, the Ravens, the Steelers got to play Washington again, in Washington next time. So there might not be, that's going to be another tough game. So they've got to get rid of these slow starts. I know it's, like we always say, it's easy for us to sit here and everyone else in the, the media and the podcast world to just say, yeah, they've got to do this. But it is reality at the end of the day. They have got to get better. You know what I mean? We all want the best, and I know they want the best, and they work really hard. But these stretch of games and in the playoffs, oh my God, I don't think about the playoffs yet because the playoffs is going to be tough in the
Yeah.
NFC.
The
That is
thing.
going to be the prime time viewing for the playoffs. It's not going to be AFC because we all know the Chiefs, unless the Bills manage to this year overcome them in the playoffs, which they haven't managed to yet. You know what I mean? Josh Allen, as hard as he tries, he can't get past them in the playoffs. So it's
Yeah.
more than likely going to be the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But the NFC, that's where the primetime viewing is going to be. That's going to be the standard, and it's, unless they get rid of these slow starts, it's going to be hard to meet that. And unless Detroit collapse, they could do, you know what I mean? But they're having the best year they've ever had so far.
As far as the Chiefs, I'm not deadlocked on the Chiefs being between the Chiefs and the Bills. Chiefs kind of started out like what we did last year. They were winning games
Yeah,
by a fluke. They couldn't pull off the win against Buffalo last week. When you look at turnovers, Patrick Mahomes has turned the ball over just as much as Jalen Hurts this year, and
yeah. That's the only
he
thing you
doesn't
count
have the
on them.
weapons. Yeah, he doesn't have the weapons that Jalen has. But even though the Steelers lost that game to the Browns, I think could be between the Steelers and the Bills in the AFC this year. The Steelers were coming off a tough victory at home against Baltimore. That is a huge rival. That's just like us and the Cowboys, or us and I guess Ike used to say it was the Giants when he played, were their big division rivals.
Yeah,
But that's a very, very huge rival between those two teams. They're both tough, physical teams, and that's what they were coming off of going into Cleveland. And I'm just going to say they were probably overlooking Cleveland. Cleveland's been horrible, and then you had the weather come in, and that changed everything. And that was, to me, in my opinion, that was kind of a fluke loss. I'm not saying Cleveland is fluky or anything like that, but when you combine the weather and then them coming off that game against the Ravens and how tough that game, what was it, 18-16 or 18-13, something, that low
yeah,
scoring, tough physical game, and then it was a Sunday, Sunday at 1, I think, when that was. Then they had to play Thursday, short week. I can see how they lost that game to Cleveland, especially with the way the weather came in to effect. But I think the Steelers. I'm not big on the Ravens right now. I'm not. Lamar's never
it's
really
just
proven it in the
Lamar.
playoffs.
Lamar is always a when Lamar plays us, he seems to uh, just run through our defense.
Yeah,
Maybe he won't have that luck this year, but yeah, the Steelers aren't. Yeah, we should be able to score against the Ravens,
yeah.
definitely. But Lamar is just, he's Lamar, and I know he's dipped a bit these last few games. He seems to be struggling, but yeah, that Ravens game is going to be hard, and it's in Baltimore,
Yeah.
so
The
we
the
we
thing the
see,
thing
man.
that the thing that I like as well, even if it is, say we meet the Steelers in the Super Bowl. Steelers can't score a lot of points right now. I know Russell Wilson's playing
Mm,
better, but they're not scoring a lot of points right now. And our
mm,
defense is flipping phenomenal right now. They've got
mm.
probably the best pass rusher in the league in Watt. So he would have to go against Lane Johnson, but like right now, Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are the best graded on island tackles in the NFL. The best. They're not like 1 and 3 or 3 and 5. They are number
Mm.
1 and 2 in the NFL
Yeah,
at tackles
yeah,
being graded on an island. So I I don't know. We're looking way ahead down the road, but yeah, as
Yeah.
far as the Chiefs, going back to them, I think right now they're kind of lucky at the way they're winning, like we were at times last year. I'm not saying they'll
Mm.
collapse like we did because I don't think an Andy Reid team can collapse like that. I think he can grab a hold of
Mm.
a team and jerk their ass back in line and get them going back. But I think you know, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs will be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. We see. I don't know, man. It's just like every time I watch a Chiefs game, everything just is. Even though they struggle and Mahomes will throw an interception, just seems to be like either the refs are on the side or they just
Hey,
you know what I mean.
it
Like
happens.
yeah. I don't want to say I hate the Chiefs, but I don't know. I do, man. It
You're
just
kind of
yeah.
over the Chiefs. You're like everybody else. You're kind
Yeah,
of over the
I'm
Chiefs.
sick of them now. You know, what I mean, it was the Patriots for so long, and
Yeah.
everyone hated the Patriots, and now it's the Chiefs, and it's just like, yeah, yeah. So let's
Going
get
to
back to the yeah.
yeah,
Go on.
going back to the game. The Rams defensive line. Uh, I
Hmm.
don't I don't pretend to know a whole lot about the Rams, but I do know about that defensive line. And their first round draft pick was a guy who I was praying would fall to the Eagles in Jared Verse out of Florida State. This kid
Hmm.
came from, he was a NIL transfer portal guy. He played at Albany. Albany. I don't even, somewhere in New York, I suppose.
That's New
And
York.
he
Yeah.
transferred,
Right.
yeah, he transferred into Florida State. And the reason I know so much about him is because he was initially going to come to the University of Tennessee. And I was
Hmm.
hoping and praying we would get this kid. Everybody was like, my God, look at this kid. And you watch tape on him and everything. He was a physical specimen. He's like an athletic freak. So how did this kid wind up at Albany? Well, he was kind of smaller in stature. He couldn't keep weight on, stuff like that. He was long and
Hmm.
lean frame, stuff like that. But he worked at it. He worked his ass off, and he got a really good NIL deal. Wound up going to Florida State over Tennessee. That kid is a freak, and he is probably, I think, the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year right now, with Quinion being number two. I hope Quinion can overtake him. If Quinion could catch a
It's
couple
got
of
to be Quinyon, man.
interceptions,
I mean,
yeah, if
yeah.
Quinion could catch, he's dropped at least 5 picks, so if he could have caught at least a couple of
And
them,
then you had GJ
yeah,
bump into him on that one, and he's this close
yeah,
to getting it, and it's just like,
yeah.
come on, can't
So
catch that break.
I wonder how he's going to do going up against Lane and Mailata, where they line him up, because on the other end, they have another really good pass rusher who was taken very late in the draft, who did come from the University of Tennessee, Byron Young.
Mm.
And I wanted
Ah,
this
yes,
kid
yeah.
so bad. I was telling everybody, look, man, y'all are overlooking this kid. Or, oh, he's small. I said, I don't give a damn. This kid's got heart. He works his ass off. I've watched him. I've seen every game he played for 2 years at Tennessee. And he wound up being, I think, a fourth to sixth round. I can't remember all that jazz, but
Mm.
he was a late round pick. And when the Rams got him, I said, you guys watch and see. This kid had like 6, 7 sacks last year as a late draft pick like that. He had the sack against somebody late this season. He got their face mask. You remember what game that was? He grabbed their and he thought it was going to be called on him because it was in the end zone and they didn't call
Mm.
it. He got lucky as hell. But Byron Young is a really good young defensive edge rusher as well. So I think Jordan and Lane are going to have their hands full with these two young pups tomorrow.
So speaking of that, then, how do you think Quinion and Cooper are going to who they're going to match up against this week? Because you've got Cooper Cup, and then you've got Puka Nakua, you've got Tutu Atwell. They got a decent tight end, the
Yeah.
Rams. I can't remember his name, but Stafford seems to go to him a lot.
Oh, he's a
So
security blanket.
yeah,
Yeah.
so uh, Sean McVay, he's a fantastic offensive mind, as we all know.
Yep.
So he's obviously going to try and cause as much confusion for Quinion and Cooper this week as much as he can. So how do you think, our two guys are going to match up against Puka Nakua and Cooper Rush?
I meant to look last night and I forgot to see where They lined up the majority of the time. I
Mm.
know Cooper Rush used to line up in the slot quite a bit, and
Yeah,
that's where
he's
we've
usually in the
been.
slot a lot. Yeah,
That's where we've been playing our Cooper. So it looks like it might be Coop versus Coop in the slot.
Coop. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I don't care who lines up against Quinyon Mitchell right now. I don't. I have that much faith in the kid. That
yeah,
kid has blown me away with his play, and
yeah. It's
like I
incredible.
said, it's everyone he's went up against. He's not shadowed guys per se, but whoever they've lined up over there, like Terry McLaurin had one catch for 4 yards the
Mm.
entire game
Yeah,
against Washington. Malik Neighbors had like two catches or something like that in the Giants game. So I mean, the kid has been all pro as a rookie thus far.
mm.
The
Yeah.
it's crazy to say, but the guy I worry about is Darius Slay. He's getting up in age. It seems like he gets nicked every game. He's playing well. He is, but he has lost a step. And with these
That's what I think
smaller,
yeah, that's what I think they're gonna do a lot this week. I think they're gonna cause a lot of confusion and they're gonna attack Darius Slay.
yeah,
You know, more than they're gonna make it look as if Quinyon is gonna need to cover Cooper Cup and they're gonna then suddenly put some motion in and he's gonna go over to Slay's side and it's gonna free up someone else and there's gonna be a lot of confusion this week. I think coming their way. So they're gonna attack Darius Slay. I think because like you
yeah,
just said, he's getting up there. He's not playing as great this year. He's been okay, but he seems to be Father Time. Unfortunately, he's catching up with him, and Sean McVay's he's a great mind, so he's gonna know. He's not gonna test Quinion Mitchell. I don't think. Maybe he will a little bit just to
I think
see.
they will a
Uh,
little just because he's a
yeah,
rookie. You know, I
yeah,
think I
because of
think
the
they have
rookie.
that in them. They're
Yeah.
like, we're not just going to shy away from this kid. He's a rookie.
Hmm.
I'm sure they've watched a ton of tape on him, and they're going to see what maybe they can try to expose on him and Cooper DeJean as far as that goes. Because
Yeah.
Cooper Cup ain't no slouch either. I know there was a lot of talk at
No,
the
that's
trade
it
deadline
too.
that he might be available to be traded. It didn't happen. They're what 5-5 or 5-4 right now. They're
Yeah,
they could win the West. The West is wide open. So
it's
they've
wide
got
open.
everything in front of them right now. I think I think all in all, when it's all said and done, I think we'll get a win. I think it's going
Hmm.
to be tight though because we don't have Devontae. I
Hmm.
think it's going to be another. It's going to be a slow game to start with. I think it's going to be a
Hmm.
slow start. But like I said, if we can get 3 points on the first drive, I'll be happy. I'll take three on the first drive as long as we're getting points on the first drive. I think
Yeah,
we're going to have to lean on Saquon a little more. Uh,
yeah.
because they're like I said, with Devontae not there, they're gonna double AJ. They're gonna say,
Double
okay,
M.
if you
Yeah.
want to beat
Oh
us
yeah.
throwing the ball, you're gonna have to beat us with Jahan Dotson, with Dallas Goddard, Grant Calcaterra, the big kid from Florida State, Johnny Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah.
You're gonna have to beat us with those guys. Is Britton Covey coming back too? Because if he is,
I
I really want to see Cooper stop returning punts because he's too valuable to the
yeah.
defense. Once he
Yeah.
came in, our defense went up a level. I mean, did they not? I mean, once he got over that hamstring injury that he suffered in training camp, and he
Yeah.
started playing, our defense took a step up to that next level. And I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
he's been really good at returning punts. But if Covey's back, put Covey back there, man. I
Put
don't want to
Covey
see
back
him
there.
taking
Yeah.
any unnecessary
You
hits.
can. Yeah. You can trust Covey. And he does make some good runs sometimes. He's come
Yeah,
close a couple of times to breaking one. And I know Mel Reese is just dying to see Covey get that home run, but
he's
I
he's
don't
wanting to
think it's
call
gonna
a
happen.
Covey.
But
He's wanting to call a Covey
yeah,
punt return for a touchdown so bad he can taste it. So
so
maybe this week
yeah,
Uncle Merrill gets his wish. He can call a
yeah. So I hope he
Covey
does.
punt
Yeah,
return.
yeah. I think Covey will play. He's a full participant on the injury report. I know they still had him down a bit as questionable, but I,
Yeah,
I think he'd play. I think they'll put him in there. Like you said, they can't risk it for much longer having Cooper DeJean back there. As good as he's been doing it, it's
he's
this
been great.
yeah, like we keep harping back to it. It's a critical point in the season now where they've got to start keeping guys in the right spots and playing them when they need to, watching injuries and yeah, keeping them as healthy as we can though.
Going back to Saquon, let me ask you this. Like
Mm.
I don't know how much you've listened. I've not listened much at all this week. I got sick this week with some kind of bug or something, and I didn't work
Mm.
Wednesday or Thursday. So I didn't listen to the radio at all Wednesday. Listened very little Thursday. Listened a little bit more yesterday. But everybody, we've all been talking about Saquon's touches. Should we limit his touches to keep him a
Mm.
little more fresh for the playoffs? So
Yeah.
if we give, there's there's been a lot of people with really good calls and suggestions for that. How much does it affect us if we give Saquon 5 less touches a game? And if we get a big lead going into the fourth quarter, they're going to take him out and play
Yeah.
Gainwell and Shipley a little bit
Definitely, yeah.
more. But what are your thoughts on, say, just automatically off the top, 5 less touches a game? Hell, even 4. If you give Gainwell one more touch per quarter, or 1.5 or 1.25 touches per quarter, if Gainwell gets 5 more touches a game, that I can live with. Now we all know if it's a close game, they're going to have Saquon in. But what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on limiting his touches to keep him fresh as we can for the playoffs?
I think if, like you said, the Rams have got a good defensive line. If it goes back to if our offensive line can dominate in this game and they can just keep establishing the run throughout the game, well then yeah, if they've got a good lead and the O line is dominant, then yeah, get Saquon out there. I don't want what happened to him happening Christian McCaffrey. What happened to
Yeah,
Christian McCaffrey? I don't want that happening to Saquon next year. We've got Saquon for another 2 years. Obviously, we don't want to run him into the ground. Um, like I keep saying, it's a pivotal point in the season now. So if we can get out to the gate in these games coming up, we can get good leads, get good domination on the offensive line you know in the trenches, then yeah, take him out, start limiting the snaps because like we said a couple of weeks ago, Kenny comes in, he does his job, he does what's required of him. He can get those 3 or 4 yards that they need to get, so they can get a 2nd and 1, so they can get a 3rd and 2, and whatever. They can get the touch push. So if yeah, if the offensive line is doing their job Sunday, then get Saquon out of there. Limit the snaps in both halves of the game. If the first half is going well and they're doing good and it's not too close, then yeah, when it's coming down to half time, get Kenny Gainwell in there, get Shipley in there. Just keep bashing at the defensive line if we're dominating. And yeah, that's the way to go because we got to we got Devontae out this week now. Yeah, we're gonna have to lean on Saquon in the game, but if we can take over in this game now, limit the snaps definitely. I'm 100% for it because we're gonna need Saquon down the stretch. I mean, it might come, in the playoffs. It could be a case of we're gonna have to run the ball. It might be
yeah,
tough to keep the pass game in the playoffs, so we might have to run the ball. And we know that no team can go up against us when we want to run the ball. When we run the ball, it's game over. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
100% for it.
I also now uh I'm contradicting myself, I guess here. I want to see Saquon get a really big push for MVP here, which means they're going to
I
have to
know.
stop doing the push tush so much. I think, and
I
we
know.
talked about it all off season. As soon as we got Saquon, it, you heard it on the radio every time. I guess that we were all saying that maybe this means they're not going to use the push tush as much because in that game against the Bucks in the playoffs they done it one time and you seen the defender grab Jalen's helmet and just like twist his head. They were
Yeah, that
taking
was a scary
their
moment.
liberties with Jalen in that Tampa game in the playoffs last year. So let him if we get it to the one. And I heard Nick say their strategy as well. That's a plus play. That's a non-negative play because we don't feel like we can lose yardage on that play. We feel like we're turning around, handing it off. There's an opportunity for a defensive lineman or a linebacker to shoot the gap and stop us for a loss, and we don't want to lose yards when we're that close. I get it. But let him get some daggone touchdowns. He's got you there. He's got you that far. And he has incentives in his contract. If he scores 10 touchdowns 10 rushing touchdowns or 10 total touchdowns, he's going to get like a a pay boost or some kind of something
Mm.
like that. So I mean, let him start scoring, man, because if the Lions lose a couple more games, which we hope they do, I don't see Goff
Mm.
winning MVP. Right now, Mahomes doesn't have the stats to win MVP. He has the
No,
same
there's no
amount of
way.
turnovers as Jalen right now.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, they've lost how many games? 3 now. So
Yeah.
right now, the front runner for MVP, in my opinion, is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the front runner. They've lost one
Yeah.
or two games, but if you can get Saquon up to, 12, 15 total touchdowns, and I mean, man, he could have a real shot at MVP. Real shot at
Yeah.
MVP. But when it all comes down to it, I would rather have a Super Bowl and him win Super Bowl MVP than I had regular
Oh,
season
yeah.
MVP. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
Well, let's sort of like turn it a bit now. Talking of MVPs, there's a particular MVP that's just causing lots of problems for Philadelphia at the moment, for all of us fans. Let's talk about Mr. Joel Hans Embiid.
Yeah.
Now, you know, he's out now for, the next week or so from the looks of it. They're managing his knee again, the knees, the knees, the knees. And we all, let's talk about quickly what happened last week. That team meeting, they had a big team meeting that was called. Maxi called out Joel, for being late, not looking, mentally like you want to be there. You know, what do you think necessary? Joel has come out then and said, I'm not happy about the leak. Whoever leaked it is a piece of trash.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it getting leaked originally? And do you do you think this is going to be good for the team going down the stretch? Because they're obviously going to be out without Joel Embiid off and on. Paul George, I mean, that seems to be like a complete waste of time. He's 34. He can't stay healthy, you know. So how do you think, the Sixers are going to need to manage Joel and the rest of the team, this disaster going forward?
Uh, Full disclosure for anybody who's never watched or listened to us before, I will say I'm not an NBA fan.
Mm.
I've kind of lost my love for the NBA several years ago. Still love college basketball, but anyway, I think Joel Embiid is the softest player I have ever seen or heard of in these last few years. He is, I understand, he's 7'2", 280 pounds and all this, and that's a lot of wear and tear
Mm.
on a body. But he
Yeah.
could prevent a lot of that if he would work during the off season. If he had taken the off season to work on his strength and conditioning and stuff like that, and his knees, instead of being selfish and going to the Olympics to
On the
get an
Olympics.
Olympic medal, which, I mean, yeah, it's good for him, I guess. He can say he's champion of something, but he didn't really do anything in the Olympics. He didn't
No.
do much of anything. It was selfish on his part. I said that then. I say that now. And the team, people are like, well, the team let him do it and all this. I don't think the team can stop him from doing it per se. I
No,
don't
he
know
calls
how.
the shots
Yeah,
from
I don't.
the
I don't
locker
know
room.
how contracts work, stuff like that. If a guy wants to go play in the Olympics, personally, I would rather have an NBA championship than an Olympic gold medal. If it's different if you're a track and field person. It's you.
Mm.
You're competing. You're working by yourself and all this stuff like that. You're competing against someone else, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're relying on somebody else. You rely on yourself and no one else. If you're a swimmer, if you're a runner, if you're a pole vaulter, a skier, whatever. I
Mm.
think Joel is so soft, and the culture of losing that he came up around hurt that. And then the way they coddled him his entire career, let him do everything he wanted. Like these guys get so much like leeway. It is absolutely ridiculous. And then like I hate comparing athletes to regular working folk like me and yourself.
Mm.
But like they said that Maxie confronted him about being late to basically everything. And we heard Howard Eskin say he has shown up to games 30 minutes before the game. Not
Yeah.
shoot around, not 30 minutes before shoot around, 30
Yeah.
minutes before the game. How does that look? you should be like if your teammates are showing up. I don't know how early they're supposed to get there, but if they're showing up 2-3 hours before the game and getting like work done, like therapy work done, and they go out and do the shoot around stuff, you should do that too.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the leader of the team.
The
You're
leader, yeah. It's
a league
ridiculous.
MVP, and you're doing this crap, and it's a joke. I can't stand it. I despise it. I hate it because if I show up late to work, I get reprimanded, stuff like that. And I
Oh
know
yeah,
it's
of course,
different.
yeah.
It's not the same. I know it's not. This guy's got more money than you, me, and a lot of other folks will ever see in our lives. But
Yeah.
it's like he doesn't take that into thought that this is what's owed to him, not what he's earned, anything like that. I just have a hard time with stuff like that. I really
It's
do.
it's it's tough now for, the people to defend him anymore. Like I was listening to this, like yourself, like I am being able to listen a lot this week, to WIP and stuff. And like beginning of the week when the team meeting stuff first leaked, even Spike was finding it hard to
Yeah,
defend what's happened because it's out there now. It's become more of it's reality now. It's more of, it's not like anymore. Is Embiid really working? Is he not? We don't really know. Now we know what's gone on behind the scenes, and it's just a complete and utter shambles and a failure. And he's got this contract extension now. So unless they find a way to get out from under it and trade him next year, which is looking like a possibility, if it actually happens, we don't know. Time will tell. But more than likely, he will be with the Sixers, I imagine, because they're going to want to, they're not going to want what happened with Ben Simmons.
yeah.
They don't want this happening again with Joel Embiid. And that's the other thing I just wanted to say as well. You know, it seems, I hate to say it, but like Embiid has not in terms of his playing and stuff like that, because the other night, Embiid went out there and he scored 35 points in that game, in that loss, which was great. But his personality wise and leadership wise and mentality, he's become Ben Simmons
Yeah.
to a degree. Obviously, Ben Simmons is still scared to go to the hoop. It's terrible, but Embiid is not like that. But is the whole mentality of everything and the laziness and everything else. He's becoming Ben Simmons, and I can't believe what has happened, what we've seen. Before the off season, before he went to the Olympics, he was harping on about he's gonna come back and he's gonna, he doesn't care about MVP anymore. He doesn't care about all these other accolades. He just wants to win the championship for Philadelphia, and then he goes to the Olympics,
Yeah.
and it just messes everything up. So it's just, yeah, what a disaster. I don't want to harp on obviously too much about this, but
Well,
yeah,
it's like you
not good.
said though. His biggest defender, what I've heard, has been Spike Eskin since Spike came back to work for WIP.
Hmm.
And like I said, I don't pretend to be a big fan, but what I listen to on WIP, Spike has by far head and shoulders went above and beyond defending that man. And when
Hmm.
Spike says enough is enough, what the heck, man?
Yeah,
You know
you
it's
know
gone too
things are
far.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not good, man. Thank God we've got the Birds, and I know the Phillies collapsed, against the Mets, but
Yeah.
hopefully if they can get, Juan Soto now this off season, I don't think they will.
I
I
don't
think they'll
either.
try as hard as they can, but I don't think he'd come to us.
Well, the the
I
rumor
don't.
about the rumor about Soto, what they said the other day was that the Mets owner Steve Cohen has basically told his agent that whatever your offer is, let me know and I'll beat it by 50 million.
Oof.
So if I'm the Phillies, I'm just going to say, okay, Steve, we're offering 800 million.
Mm.
If you want to pay him 850, go ahead and put them in cap hell for years, But
Yeah,
I
it
don't
looks
know
like the
how true
Phillies.
that is. That could be Boris
Yeah,
just spewing, but who knows?
I mean, it looks like the Phillies are trying to get him because John
Yeah,
Middleton has brought in some more owners that have bought, shares in the team and stuff, and he's dumped a lot of contracts, and so he's trying to free up some money, as much as he can. So they obviously are trying to get him, and there's, like Jack said the other day, there's that they are going to be meeting with Soto, but so are other teams, like you said, the Mets will meet with him. Maybe the Yankees will try and keep him. Y-
Red
You
Sox
know,
want him too.
yeah, the Red Sox. So it's going to be tough to get him. So I don't think they will get him. I know he was friends with. Did he play with Bryce Harper?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was with
he did, didn't
Harper
he?
for a couple seasons, and he won the World Series with Trey. Kenny Long was
Yeah.
his hitting coach in Washington.
Mm,
So I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of sway the Phillies' way when it comes to that,
mm.
but it all comes down to the money.
It's going to
Who's
be
going
money,
to
and
pay
yeah,
him the
but
most?
yeah,
And
he's even said, haven't he, I'm going to the highest bidder.
yeah,
So
and I
that's why
appreciate that honesty. I appreciate
yeah,
that honesty.
yeah,
Don't dick around. Don't like my papa used to say, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. So I mean, I'd be the same way. I mean, the kid's already won a World Series. He's not won an
yeah,
MVP. So I mean,
no,
yeah, I'd be the same way. You want to give me 800 million? I'll go play for the frickin' Marlins. I'll go play for the frickin' Rays. I'll hang around there for 2 years,
yeah,
kind of like A-Rod did with the Rangers. And when we suck, I'll ask for a trade, and you can send me on my way.
yeah.
But get your money, young man.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens now. But I'm looking forward to spring training and seeing how what the team is looking like then. So we'll see. So obviously there was some big bit of news yesterday as well. Daniel Jones got released from
Yeah.
the Giants. That's just been at the shambles for that general manager of the Giants. He needs to he needs to go because what we've seen in the off season, how he messed Saquon around and messed that up completely. So there's a lot of talk. Sure, should I saw Elliot tweet, Daniel Jones would be good to bring in to back up Jalen, and what do you think about that? Because I know Daniel Jones can run a bit and stuff, but I'm not too sure myself if I would like that
I,
move. I don't think they'll do it, but
I don't think they do it, but I have no problem with it. Here's why. Daniel
mm,
Jones has been a part of a trash organization his entire professional career. A
mm,
trash organization. The Giants have been horrible ever since he came into the league.
yeah,
They just do not have the coaching in place, the front office stuff in place. None of their house is in shambles. It ain't in order. You go back and you look at some of these first round picks who have failed as quarterbacks. And when you look at where they've been and you see why they failed. Look at how bad Chicago has been for how many years and how many first round quarterbacks have been through there. Same with Cleveland. Same with
the
with
Jaguars
Jags.
were full of first round
Like
picks.
I seen something the other day. They like, okay, if we're redrafting the draft, the Bears would take Jaden Daniels. Well, you know what? Jaden Daniels would suck with the Bears too because the Bears suck. They have horrible
Yeah,
coaching.
yeah,
Like
true.
they knew this guy was a horrible coach. They let him work with Fields for 1 or 2 seasons and he couldn't get anything out of Fields. Coming out, if Fields would have went to a different organization, he could have been better. He could have. So you look. What was the kid from the Jets? Zach Wilson. All right, he's with
Yeah,
the Broncos now. He's with Sean Payton. Sean Payton's kind of like a quarterback whisperer, much like Andy Reid and stuff like that. If you get a young man like Bo Nix was not particularly. I laughed at the fact that the Broncos took Bo Nix, but I shouldn't have because everybody's like, well, what would have happened had Nick Saban, when he was the coach with the Dolphins, had he not listened to the trainer or the doctor and taken Drew Brees? Drew Brees wouldn't have been the quarterback he was. You know why? Because Nick Saban ain't Josh Payton. He's not a
mm,
quarterback, or Sean Payton, not Josh Payton. He's not a
mm,
quarterback whisperer. So the Dolphins went with Dante Culpepper at that time. And Drew Brees went to the Saints.
mm.
And that's when Drew Brees had a few good years with the Chargers. He did. But they let him go for a reason. They had Philip Rivers as a first round pick. And then what happened? Drew Brees became a Hall of Fame quarterback with the
Yeah,
Saints and won a daggone Super Bowl. It's where you go. It's the environment you work in. It's the coaching. It's the team. It's everything. And that's
yeah.
why
All these things are
Jalen
okay.
has played so much better than the second, third round draft grade that he's been given. I'm not 100. I've never really been 100%. Oh, Jalen's the end all be all like our buddy OG Wade. I've
Mm,
not, but I will give credit where credit is due. And Jalen has really played well. He's played better than some of the guys who were drafted above him. But if you put Caleb Williams with the Commanders, he's probably playing at the same level that Jaden Daniel is. Why? Because he's got a offensive guru as an offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff
Yeah.
Kingsbury kind of screwed it up in Arizona because he was the head
Mm.
coach. I think Kingsbury would be really good as just an offensive coordinator, not try to be a head man again. Because if
Yeah.
you're a coordinator, you can work directly with the quarterback and the
Exactly, yeah.
offense, and you don't have to have your hands in everything else.
Mm.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
See,
would
we
I
were
would
looking
take
for
Daniel
England,
Jones though.
Washington. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose I'm a bit. For me, it's just because of how he's looked at in the Giants. I know the Giants, like you said, have a terrible organization, and they are. Like seeing the hard knocks and the way they handled
Yeah.
Saquon was just like, oh my God, like all those guys need to be let go. And I think that's what they'll end up doing ultimately. They'll end up just doing a
Yeah.
complete, whole refresh and see how that works out for them. But yeah, so what did I want to? Yeah, that was it. I said the criticism that Jalen's faced a little bit this week now from like the likes of these like backup guys, Colt
Yeah.
McCoy, and so what do you think about it? I know, like obviously, our buddy OG Wade, he's a big Jalen advocate,
Yeah.
and that's fine, and Jalen has been playing, a lot better than these guys, and I don't think Jalen will ever be a backup quarterback, no way. I think if he ever leaves the Eagles, he'll be a starter, you know. Um, but I hope he never leaves the Eagles.
Yeah.
I want Jalen to keep flourishing, keep growing, because he's got a great mentality. He's a leader, and he's done his job. So, how do you feel about it? Dan Orlovsky was criticizing Jalen a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and now like Jalen always seems to get a bit of he gets it more than these other guys, like Joe Burrow and Lamar and Josh Allen, and like I don't think too highly of Joe Burrow to be honest with you. I never have. I know he's good, and what have you, but I don't rate Joe Burrow.
The thing of it is that I think that always comes back to all those guys you listed were first round quarterbacks. Every one of them.
Mm,
Jalen was a second
mm,
round quarterback. Now Lamar
mm.
was pick number 32, right? Didn't we trade
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
that pick to the Ravens? So he was the final pick in the first round. But he still has that tag of being a first round quarterback, and Jalen still has that tag of being a second round quarterback.
Mm.
And when he was drafted, he wasn't even drafted to be the starter. We had Carson Wentz at the time.
Mid Wentz, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to get into all the deep weeds of that, like them saying they knew something was up with Wentz and all that stuff, and that's why
Mm.
that's why they drafted Joe. I don't know. We're never going to know that. But
No.
I think, I really think this team can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts because they damn near done it in 2022.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, if that ball doesn't slip out of his hand and he fumbles and they recover it and return it for a touchdown, if we
James Bradbury doesn't make that hold.
yeah,
Oh, God.
well, if they don't make that call because they hadn't made that call the whole game, but
Yeah,
I mean
unfortunately,
it's
yeah.
just it's a whole big thing. But like as far as Burrow, I've always liked him. I
Mm.
watched him the 2 years he was at LSU. And his second year when they went undefeated, he had a ton of talent. He had Jamar Chase, he had Justin Jefferson, he had good running backs. But since he's been in Cincinnati, they've been to the playoffs once or twice now. His rookie year he got injured. I
Yeah.
think he
He did
blew out
take him
his
to the
knee.
Super Bowl
He
as
took him
well,
to the
but
Super Bowl. But they've never had a good offensive line there since he's been
no.
there. I think
Yeah.
he's been hit more than any quarterback since he's been drafted, possibly. I think I
Mm.
saw that the other day. If you put Joe Burrow on the Eagles, I think he's elite. I really
Mm.
do. He's got everything in the toolbox. He can make every single throw. But man, Jalen's just got that leadership role. I know if OG sees this, he's going to rip me and he's going to, oh, you, I mean, I call him ace and a spade. And he's a great quarterback. I'm glad he's our quarterback. And last year was kind of a bit of a hiccup. I don't know if like everything with the contract kind of messed with him mentally
Mm.
or
Yeah,
something.
possibly.
But we heard everything off season, like they were saying, talk to the guys more, be around the guys more, stuff like that.
Mm.
It seems like he has. He's taken more of a leadership role.
Yeah.
He's taken ownership of what happened last year, which is
Vibes
huge.
are there, isn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, it's going to be, something to watch the rest of the season. It really is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So to finish off, yeah, today now let's we all know you're a big draft advocate. You love getting into the weeds of the draft every year, and I can't wait for draft season next year because we're gonna have some really fun pods, dissecting all the draftees. Who we gonna get, who are they gonna get? It's gonna be really fun. I can't wait for that time. But so we get into college corner with Justin now. So how do you think these games are lining up this week? Who sort of like your underdog sort of game, who's a definite lock, and who could be like sort of a trap game for a team.
Uh, right now, Army plays Notre Dame today.
Hmm.
It's a 7 o'clock game. You and I talked about it
Big
beforehand.
game.
It's a big game for Notre Dame because if they lose, they will be out of the college football playoffs. Their one loss was at home to Northern Illinois, and that is a team that hasn't won a game since they beat Notre Dame. They are
No,
atrocious,
big
and they
upset.
beat Notre
Hmm.
Dame at Notre Dame. And this game means a lot to me as a Tennessee fan because if Notre Dame loses, that means Tennessee's going to be in. All they have to do is win their next two games. Tennessee. You have Florida playing
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss today. Florida has a really good young quarterback, freshman in DJ Lagway. This
Hmm.
kid is going to be something special. I really believe it. He has a rifle of an arm. He
Hmm.
has really good mobility. His head coach he's coming back next year, from what they've
Yeah, he'll
said.
be back.
There was talk that his coach might be fired. Preseason, there was talk that Florida might not win 3 games because they've had a rough schedule. They really
They got
have.
a harder schedule this year, don't they?
Yeah.
In
So
oh,
Florida they've got Ole Miss today. I think next week they've got Florida State, and that'll be it for them. They should finish 6-6, and a lot of people didn't have them winning 3 games. And Florida
hmm.
State's probably only won 1 or 2 games all year, and that was a team that was undefeated
And
last year.
I think they would have beaten Georgia if Lagway hadn't gone out to that game with the hamstring pull because they were rolling in that game. They were
Yeah,
taking a lot nice.
they were playing really well. I don't think Florida beats Ole Miss. I think it's a pretty close game throughout maybe the
Yeah.
first half. But if Lane Kiffin, the head coach of Ole Miss, can step on your neck and end you, he will do it. That guy does
Ole
not
Miss,
care.
yeah.
He's not out to make friends with anybody. He was
Oh
coached for
no.
1 year at Tennessee, and he had all of our hopes up, and he left after that 1 year and went to USC. But Lane Kiffin's a really good offensive coach. He is.
Hmm.
And I think Ole Miss just blows the doors off of Florida today. I don't think it's particularly
Yeah,
close.
they're really
I think they
good
pull
this year.
away. Yeah, I think they pull away in the second half. I think Alabama's got Oklahoma today.
Yeah.
I don't see that being much of a game. Oklahoma not very good this year. They've changed starting quarterbacks a couple of times. They
Hmm.
fired their offensive coordinator. Their head coach could be on the hot seat potentially at the end of the year. Who knows? But I think both those teams really put an exclamation point on today because especially both teams have 2 losses. Neither team can afford a loss, and with teams that they should beat handily, I think because right now style points mean a lot in college football because of the playoffs. Just like Tennessee
Yeah.
today. I think Tennessee's a 40.5 point favorite over UTEP. Tennessee
Hmm.
better win by 50 because they're the first team out when it comes to the playoff. Their 2
Hmm.
losses are to Georgia, and at Arkansas. The thing that gets me though, and I don't want to get into the weeds again, but like a loss at Arkansas was supposedly worse than a loss for Ole Miss to Kentucky, which was at Ole Miss. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home by 3 or 4
Hmm.
points. Kentucky's trash. They've won 3 or 4 games all year. But anyway, we're getting deep into the weeds, and I know a lot of folks don't care about it. There's going to be a lot of good games today and next weekend. But like I said, I think the key one to watch today will be Army and Notre Dame and Ohio State and Indiana. If
Indiana.
Indiana loses by a big margin, Indiana's ranked 5th in the country. They're undefeated. Hopefully, Ohio State beats them like they stole something, beats them like they're mad at them. Because if Indiana loses big, that means they're going to be out, and Tennessee's going to be back in. Because Tennessee's got the 18th toughest schedule in college football. And you know me, I'm all Vols, every day,
All
all day.
balls,
It's
baby.
go Vols, go Birds, and I don't give a damn about nothing else.
Yeah, you said Owen's going to be doing a bit of tailgate then, is
Yeah,
it? Tonight
yeah.
for balls?
Owen and my nephew, they got tickets last night. Like I said, it's UTEP. It's not a big game. Hopefully, they beat this team by 60.
Mm.
So tickets are really cheap. So he said last night, him and my nephew were getting tickets. My nephew's back in town. He's the one that in the Dodgers organization. So he and my nephew are going down there. They're going to go around to some tailgates and hang out with
Oh,
some
nice.
friends of mine and theirs and stuff like that, and meet some folks and just have a big old time and hopefully see the Vols just kick hell out of UTEP.
Oh, nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, well, before we go quick now, I keep forgetting to tell you every week. I've been to Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 2013, me, my wife, and my sister-in-law, because we're big country music fans. We
Yeah.
love country music, and we always wanted to go to Nashville. So we went out to Nashville, and a couple of years before that, we were visiting some relatives in Germany, and we bumped into this American family from Memphis, and
Wow.
they were like backpacking through Europe altogether, you know. And they said to us, if we ever come out to America, you know, we'll meet you in Memphis. We'll take you to Graceland. We'll take you to Sun Records and all this. And we were like, oh, you know, great, okay, yeah, that'd be nice. So then a few years later, we go out, and my wife was still in touch with this lady from Memphis, and she actually met us at the bus station in Memphis. We caught the bus from Tennessee to Memphis, and she actually met us, took us around Graceland, took us to BB King's
That's awesome.
in Beale Street, and we had a great time. And yeah, so we spent a few days in Nashville, you know, just going around all the bars, listening to the bands and the music, and it was like one of the best vacations we've ever had. You know, we went
It
to the Country
sounds
Music
like
Hall
it.
of Fame. It was great, you know, and we actually went to see we saw the Titans and the Steelers. They were playing, and I've never been so cold. We were in November. It was in November that we went, so we didn't sort of know what the weather was going to be like, and we got managed to get like cheap tickets, and we were right up in the gods, all the way at the
Yeah.
top, in Tennessee's. I can't remember the name of the stadium.
It's
They
a
changed it now.
Nissan
It was the
Stadium or something's what it's
Yeah,
called now.
it was like the Bridgestone arena or
Bridgestone
something.
Arena is the name where the Predators play hockey.
Ah, right, okay. I can't remember the name. What was the name of the stadium? I'm not sure, but I know they changed it now. We were right at the top, and we only managed to stay till half time because we were
Yeah.
so cold. We'd never experienced being that cold before. And I think like the Titans were like getting beat really bad by the Steelers.
I'm
You know, like
sure.
Ben Roethlisberger was still the quarterback then, so he was just like they were just killing the Titans. And I know you don't like the Titans as well, so
No.
I thought you'd be pretty happy to hear that. So even the Titans fans were like, they were sort of like fighting each other in the stand because they were just so frustrated. It was so cold, and yeah, it was a great experience overall. So I keep forgetting every week to tell you, you know. So yeah, it's
That's
because we
awesome.
you know big country fans, so we were like we got
So
to get out to Nashville.
as far as country music, you like
Mm.
Zach Bryan?
Zach, yeah, I mean I like Zach. He's okay, but to me he sort of doesn't have that true country. To me he's more of a folk singer than
So
a
what about
country
like
sort of singer.
Eric Church?
Yeah, Eric Church,
You like
Midland,
Church?
Zach Brown
Midland's
Band.
really good. I love
You
Midland.
know, I've seen Midland. They came to the UK a couple of years ago, and we went to see them, and they were just so good live,
So
incredible. Uh, they Zach Brown Band and Midland are me and my wife's favorite like country bands, and we love Zach Brown Band.
Zach
You know,
Brown Band's
Oscar,
awesome.
yeah, Alan Jackson, you know, Johnny Cash,
Oh,
all the legends. You
so
know,
let me give you a new band to follow. You may have heard of them. They're called the Red Clay Strays. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't heard of them. No.
Look them up, bud. They're
Red Clay
phenomenal.
Strays.
The
Okay, I'll
Red
have a
Clay
look. Yeah,
Strays. They are
I'll get them
phenomenal.
on.
They have their first full album just came out a month or so ago. They're
Mm.
really good. So if anybody wants any country music stuff, holler at me and Adam.
Yeah, we're your boys.
Yeah,
You
we're
and
your boy.
Jack
And
Fritz.
Jack Fritz. Jack Fritz is a
Yeah,
country boy too.
he's a
Don't
big
let
country
nobody
boy.
fool you. But me and Owen, we went and seen Dwight Yoakam last year. I don't know if you
Oh,
like Dwight
cool.
Yoakam, but I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
Dwight
yeah,
Yoakam. And
yeah.
a friend of mine had some tickets. They got sick, weren't going to be able to use them, and they gave them to me and Owen. And we went and saw him at the Tennessee Theater in Knoxville. Very small
Oh,
venue.
nice. Yeah.
It was awesome, man. I love
Oh,
Dwight
yeah,
Yoakam. My dad put me
yeah.
on Dwight Yoakam when I was a kid.
You can't beat country music. You
No,
can't. It's
you can't
three
beat it with
chords
a
and a
rubber
tune,
hammer.
as they say. Yeah.
Yep, 3 chords
I
and a
heard that
true.
one before with the rubber hammer. Well, I think we better end it there because
Yeah,
we got some college football to watch this afternoon. So
yes, sir.
yeah. So just it's been another great pod, and it's going to be a tough game for the Birds this weekend, but let's hope they get it done. I got faith in them, even with out Devontae. I think they can still get it done. It's a winnable game, so they just got to go down there, take care of business, and keep this thing rolling. So
Yeah,
it's been a good one. Thanks again. Thanks to everyone. This podcast is going to be up today, so like, follow, subscribe, give us a listen. We appreciate all your support so far. So thanks everyone. Go Birds, go Vols. See you next week.
love y'all, man.